So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us. So my name is Diana Perez, and I work in the Division of Technology Solutions. And besides me is our team, Dr. Maria Esther Rodriguez Nunguma and Mr. Freud Trejo. So we are delighted to be here with you. And we want to show you some PEIMS updates. First of all, we're going to introduce the fall enrollment counts for the region. As you know, the PEIMS fall submission was already submitted. And now we're finally going to just share with you the enrollment counts for this past fall submission. And then after that, Mr. Fuertrejo is going to give you a preview of what Ms. Romalda had mentioned, the budgeting tools revamped. So before, as you know, it used to be a static report, but now Mr. Adrian Garcia gave us the ambitious task of reimagining it. And so now the background of that is going to be using the platform of Tableau, where it should be more interactive for you so that you can integrate different variables and that way drive those decisions that you need to do for your school systems. And then after that, I'm going to finalize it by sharing with you the TSDS TEA upgrade project that they're doing. So basically that's going to impact how we in the PEIMS office submit data to the state. Before, if you're familiar with the process, we have to upload files to the state. But now they're going to catch up to the technology of API. So we will be discussing that. So Ms. Dr. Rodriguez.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna just kick us off by reviewing the fall enrollment report, and you'll have access to this right after this this meeting. But I want to just kind of. Oh, okay. Just kidding. You can download your version right now as you have a bite. But again, just want to orient us to the report. So on the left-hand side, we have the list of LEAs, and this is an alpha order just to facilitate finding your own district. And then we gave you 6 years worth of data here. So you can kind of like go from left to right. We have included this column that just sort of gives you a quick snapshot of the difference from year to year. And we included two numbers. So the change from year to year in whole numbers, but then also the percentage change that it represents. And so it should be very easy for you to recognize either whether you went up or down from year to year based on the color scheme here. So, I can just like scroll down here. Oh, just kidding. And what we're going to be focusing on this afternoon is really how the region as a whole is performing. But again, you have your district-specific information here for available to you. All right, so I'm going to toggle back over to our presentation to discuss how the region has done just over time. So if you look here, beginning in 2017, there was just a steady increase, which was expected. And then the last 3 years look kind of wonky, and that's not surprising to anyone. It's been an unusual time globally, not just regionally. And so one of the things that was very surprising to us and that I want to call out is that we actually lost quite a few percentage points in enrollment from not 1920 into 2021, which is what we would expect, right? So the pandemic hits in 2019, 2020, and we expect that there's still some apprehension of sending kids back into the classroom. And so we actually expected the drop to come the year immediately after, and we didn't see that. What we actually saw is that last year is where we saw the most significant drop. We actually had a 3.5% loss in enrollment. And one of the things that, again, I want to point out, and I'll read directly from a quote this is from the Division of Research and Analysis from a TEA report that just came out. And the report says between 2020 and 2021 to 2021-22, enrollment increased in 14 ESC regions and decreased in 6 regions. Region 1 had the largest percentage decrease in enrollment. So this percentage, again, is the largest that we saw across the state in any region. But that is not the end of the story. We quickly bounced back. So from last year to this year, we've actually gained 3.9 percentage points. And so what a comeback story. We'll see if they call us out positively in the next upcoming report. So more on that later. So again, just kind of things that we should focus on over the last 6 years. So if you look from where we were in 2017, 2018 to the latest numbers, we actually saw over time, over the last 6 years, a 1.4% increase. And again, we want to really just kind of focus on the last 2 years and where we saw that. Exceptions to the drop that I just described are really charter schools. All the charter schools in our region saw an increase in their enrollment. And there was also one small rural school district who also saw a little bit of a gain those specific years. This aligns very closely with a steep rise in homeschooling. And I wish we had those numbers to share with you, but we'll be back next month and we can share out some of those numbers. But again, that is not surprising. A lot of folks opted to keep their children out of the school and opted for homeschooling. So we believe that there's a straight correlation there. In terms of increase, 31 of the 44 districts in our region saw an increase this last time. And so again, you can kind of just go over to the report and you can see how those reds start to turn green kind of across on that column. All right, so I think one of the things that really helps us understand where that gain or that decrease was is to focus in on the campus type. And so we ran a report based by grade level. So again, the red that you see here, that corresponds to the fall from 2020 to fall 2021. And again, we lost quite a bit of students. It was over 15,000 students across the region, but the majority of those were actually elementary school children. So the 62%, that's 62% of the total loss. So you see that most of our losses were in the elementary school levels. Again, that is not surprising given vaccines and their availability at the younger ages at this time. Middle school, we lost 25%, and in high school, we saw 13%. Again, encouragingly, we see that this year, or from last fall to this fall, we see significant gains. We picked up 16,000 students across the region. It is no small gain, it's 3.9%. And 72% of those increases were in the elementary school levels, 11% were in middle school, and the remaining 17% were in high school. Okay. All right, I'm gonna toss it over to Deanna so she can discuss the ADA reports.
Thank you. Part of the documents that we shared with you were also the total refined ADA comparison report. We included here 3 school years. And so the latest one is coming from the summer submission of 21-22. And so overall, we did see a decrease, a steady decrease in the comparison from the prior year. If you notice in 1920, you'll see that we had that hold harmless, right, from the 5th through the 6 weeks. And then even in 20-21, we also had a hold harmless as well. But then in 21-22, that did change. And so they gave us a ADA adjustment, not necessarily a hold harmless. So as enrollment decreased, that didn't really help those that had enrollment decreases. And so if anything, it helped when you compared yourself to a prior year. I think it was the 1920 school year that you had to hit that target rate for 21-22. So for those districts that did see a loss of enrollment, that ADA adjustment didn't quite help them. So that's why we see that drop. And with the 88th legislative session that we see here, you know, we have some, I think there's some bills that are going to be passed up to where they want to compare whether they want to fund districts via enrollment based or ADA based. So we will see how that impacts what we're going to find next school year. And one thing we can compare actually is on a trend, what would benefit our districts in Region 1, right? Enrollment based or ADA based. And so here there are some outliers with the 21-22 data. And so we're going to be monitoring those, or we'll be reaching out to the LEAs that where we see some outliers on the 21-22 ADA adjustments. Another House bill that or a bill that is up was monitoring chronic absenteeism in students. So maybe that will benefit the impact of how these students are serviced, or what outreach can they be given so that those chronic absenteeism can decrease. And also we, as a region, we want to create an attendance literacy network where we can bring in the different districts so that they can share the best practices, and then we can we can share also resources, tools that can directly also impact their attendance. So more on that later, but we do feel that there was a need. Some districts have been asking for that, so we definitely want to support them. On one more thing, as you know, this last school year and this school year, students had the ability to opt into remote instruction. But those remote instruction opportunities or options came with certain eligibility requirements. In some districts, even though the student didn't meet the eligibility requirements, they still allow the student to have remote instruction. So we can see how if they're giving that option, they're not, the student is not ADA eligible, therefore not impacting the refined ADA. So you may want to think about how many of those students in your districts were allowed to be on remote instruction, even though they were not eligible, because that's going to impact, again, the refined ADA. Yes. Yeah, that's why I mentioned it, because when I compared, and good, thank you for reminding me that the source for this is PEIMS summer submission. So we took these figures directly from what was reported through PEIMS, specifically the comparison of prior year and current year report. And when I reached out to them, they said that on the summary of finance, it doesn't show that 35. So I don't know if it's an issue with the TSDS report where I base these figures from. But yeah, we saw that outlier right there. Yeah, on their summary of finance, it doesn't show that 35K, it shows 26. Mm-hmm. All right, so next.
Okay, so we just want to give you a kind of ground us in some context for why we're making the switch over to a more dynamic interface, right? So Tableau is a very user-friendly, very intuitive tool that allows really the user to be empowered to work with their data or to parse their data in a way that is most useful to them. I think one of the things that is often frustrating for when you get a static report like the ones I just shared is that we make a lot of assumptions about how that data needs to be parsed and what is the best use for presenting that data. In this new tool, as Troy will demo here shortly, you actually have the power to either drill down as much as you'd like or to aggregate and see different trends depending on your needs at any specific time. So I'm gonna toss it over to Fran.
Hi, good afternoon. I was trying to look for a picture that best demonstrated what were our intentions with this new tool, this new platform. And I found this picture online with my favorite thing, which is Legos. And when I first saw the data 2 months ago, I saw the data at the very first level. Like that in my brain, that's how I saw the data. It was the raw data. I didn't even make any sense of it. Then I saw the reports, the ones you're used to, and it's more like sorted and arranged, and I made a little bit more sense of it. And it had a little bit of visuals in there to make more sense of it, but that's kind of like where it stops. So our purpose or our intent is that with this new platform, we move on from there to have more visuals that you can interact with, like I said, as mentioned, and also at the end, kind of like tell a story. What is the data trying to tell us, right? One of the examples is like, well, why did that trend occur? So that's kind of like the end goal that we would like to have. And obviously after that, you can make some actions to fix or to amend or to, work with whatever the story has been telling you. So this is a tool called Tableau, like we mentioned, and this is kind of like how you're gonna log in. You're gonna be able to see the tabs on the top, and it already condensed some of the data for you. It's not all the pages that you were used to, all the 80, 90 pages, and this is how it would look like. So you have like a table of contents, and when you log in, it will actually, by default, sign you into your district. So you don't have to be looking for any of the districts. It will populate all the data for you for that particular district. And of course, and we're still working on it. It's a work in progress. So some of it is not in there yet. As an example here, we have the student enrollment. That's something you did see already in your workbooks. And one of the differences about this and that workbook is that actually this is one of the minor bells and whistles that it has. We're able to drill down to the data. So now we can go to the campus level, which I think you had it as a separate one, but you're able to play with it. And also you can even go to the grade level if you would like. And, oh, does it show? Okay, we'll make it a little smaller, but in essence, this will be, this is what it's gonna show on your side. Okay, you can dissect it or drill down to a level that you would like to see and play with it. So that's just a minor bell that it has. But then this is another side. So it starts to get into the visuals and play around with it. And one of them is that same data for the 6 years, I think this one's 6 years. And you're able to, sorry, one back. This graph on the bottom, it shows you the red is obviously that you have the enrollment went down across the time for that particular year. And the green is that you have gained some of the students. So that data is summarized in this table below. And if we would like to see a particular district, then it actually shows it easier for you here at the bottom. So that's the interaction that you could do. This is very basic at the moment, but then, oh, sorry, it keeps on. Okay. So again, these are some of the features that you could have, but then you can also move on to other things that the platform offers, which is by a geographical point. And now you can see the enrollment across time in the different districts. And so if we play, keeps on going back. You can play what the changes across time. So you see the circle starts to grow a little bit, but the enrollment is, you can see it across the region, and you can see the growth of some of the districts. Okay, so the next one would be, this is something more of where we want to head to, which is a little bit of the forecast. This one tells you, the top one tells you where the district has been as far as enrollment over time. And then the bottom one, it tries to forecast to see what's going to happen in the upcoming years. This is something that I'm still playing with to provide a better outcome. And this will be provided also so you can have the parameters so you can play with the forecast as well. So in essence, you don't have to prepare only for this year, but for the upcoming years as well. Now, if you recall from the workbooks that you have used before, there was some sections in there that occupy a lot of pages. So now you have it in one single dashboard. All you have to do is select which data point are you looking at, and you can just jump into that. Okay, so again, those are the tables. I'm not gonna go into the numbers, but the tables up there, what you're used to, and then at the bottom is a visual representation of it where you can grasp what's going on right away without actually looking at the numbers. That's one of the different things that you could do. And also the same thing, if you wanna zone in into a particular area, this would change and you can zone into that particular area or that particular year, whatever it is that you clicked on. And so again, this condenses all those pages into what you wanna look at and change into. Oh yes, that was, you can actually download any of the data that's in there. So that's one of the big changes as well. I mean, you received a PDF, now you have the ability to download the data. You can work with the data as you know, however you please. And all you would do is select and you can download the data. Should I?
It'll give you the option to download either as a CSV or PDF. I know that depending on the nature of the presentation, like if you're going to import meeting, you need a JPEG for a slide.
Yeah, so what's that? Oh yeah. Yeah, so it gives you different options to download the data. This is one of them, which right now I just have it as a CSV, but you can see the data that you're going to download and download that data. So again, It depends how granular you want to get or at what level do you want to get that data from. So you can work with as you please with it. One of the points that we want to head to is find the different dimensions that make sense to each other. So as the question came out, what caused that problem? Maybe some other dimensions are the ones affecting that particular area. And therefore, we want to find those particular relations or relationship among the different dimensions. And therefore, you can play with the data and see that picture that we want to convey or that the data is conveying. This is the last one I think that's in here. And this one is just the new students to that particular district. And it's also over time, or we can pick a particular year. It doesn't, but you could see the growth in the region or where are you getting those students from. Sometimes you'll be amazed. Sometimes you think it's just because they're near you that you're getting those students, but I've seen where they're from another area, or like another side of the region, and you're getting students from there. So again, that's the data. We want to get to why are you getting those students from there and so forth. But that's the intent. We want to see that house. We want to see what can we do with that house or so forth. We go back to the Lego picture. So this is a tool that we're creating for you guys. Any input is appreciated to build this tool better. So here it is. Oh yeah.
I don't hear the excitement in the room. We're very excited. So Roy just went over some of the student enrollment reports. I know that from the PDF, there are 4 different sections to the budgeting tools. And so when you log in, you'll see 4 different tiles, and then you'll be able to toggle back and forth between those. We are still working on some of the staffing reports, but similarly to what Troy presented, you'll see a visual and then the corresponding text table at the bottom, and you'll be able to download both in the appropriate format that you need depending on the needs. So for example, this is a histogram that we built based on teachers by years of experience. And this is something that you can probably gather if you had the CSV file, but you actually just get a PDF, right? And so it would be very cumbersome for you to go in line by line and build this. And so we were thinking through the way to display the data in a way that is most useful to you. So when we looked at this one, we thought, well, what is important about the years of experience and how many teachers we have at the district level? And so you can see here for this particular district, the majority of the teachers actually have between 15 to 20 years of experience, right? And then we see very few outliers out here. And so you can modify the size of the bins depending on what you're looking for, and you can drill down also by campus level and et cetera, et cetera. So again, just a couple of ways that we are re-envisioning how the data should be presented. And as Troy mentioned, we're obviously really eager to hear your feedback and ways that we can improve the tool for your use. All right. More on that later. We'll be back next. We're actually going to be back next month to actually unveil the full budgeting reports. But I'm going to hand the mic over to Diana, who's going to give us an update on APA.
Thank you so much. And so we want to thank the districts who have let us know the users who will be receiving the license to access this new tool. So we will be reaching out to you to make sure that we get that user agreement filled out and saved, and that way you can have your credentials. And I think during the week of the FAC March meeting, which is the 24th, during that week, we should be giving you that user agreement. So thank you for that. And as they both have mentioned, we welcome any feedback on it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it'll be one user, and then any other licenses that are needed, it will come with a fee. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry? A minimal fee. How much? I don't know if you want to speak to that. I think we're looking at $200. He said $200 a license. Is that per year or? That's annual license. Mm-hmm. We have been meeting with Ms. Romalda and her team and sharing this, the latest on the tool. So I know that her and her office staff have been providing us feedback. And we want to unveil it maybe to the core FAC group. But again, if you yourself have any feedback, let us know. Mhm. All right, so the next update that I have regarding TSDS. So let me switch over to the presentation. All right, so I hope users on Zoom land can see that view. So I wanted to just inform you of the TSDS upgrade project. I hope that this is not the first time that you have heard of this. We have been mentioning it to our PEIMS folks and our partner LEAs. All right, so this is a multi-year initiative to upgrade the operational data store and the Texas education data standards. So currently we upload XML files that are taken from your student information systems, from your finance systems, from your HR systems, right? They have the PEIMS information that we turn into the state. And every time there's a collection that's due, we in the PEIMS office, we have to extract that from your systems and then manually have to go through that process of uploading the data. But now the state is catching up to an existing technology has been there for already a couple of years. And so the technology is called API. Some of you may have or may not have heard of it, but it's a matter of whatever lies in your system will get transferred in a semi-automatic fashion to the TSDS database. And from there, we will continue to submit our data to the state in those 4 PEIMS collections and any other core collections that we have to submit, special ed, early education, childhood data. So really the main focus here is how our data is gonna get from point A to point B, from our student information systems, finance systems, HR, to the TEA database. And so this is a multi-year effort. In the presentation, I give you the links to the administrator addressed letters announcing this update. As a matter of fact, they had to even extend it a year. It's a big task. So like I mentioned, this is the current process, and this is what we're striving towards. So basically the gist is at the bottom, manual data loads to automated API loads. But as you can tell, we have to validate all this. Therefore, they're going to place this project into a staged format, right? Staged approach, so that the vendors can be ready for this update and that LEA participating pilot districts can participate and test this along with the vendors. All right, so this school year, they're calling it a pilot year. And so there's going to be optional for the vendors, which are your Ascenders, your Skywards, your eSchools, right, to participate in this pilot year. They're testing it. They're doing end-to-end testing to make sure that the data that lies, again, in those systems make it all the way to the TSDS system. And even this school year, there's an optional for LEAs to participate. There's 10 in the state that are on this pilot program. 2 are from Region 1. So right now they're testing it. I've been in those meetings where they're giving TA updates. This data set is not making it. I'm having issues with the student side. So right now it's that test to end-to-end testing. And so the next school year, it's called a parallel year, in which the state will require all the vendors, all your SIS vendors, to participate in this school year. They all have to be ready. 23, 24, it's that parallel year. And even more districts will be onboarded to, again, do parallel testing. Because the go live date is 24-25, and it's gonna get here before you know it, right? So that school year, so no longer XML files. All the PEIMS folks out there, yay, right? Because we always had trouble with those XML files, trying to upload, trying to figure out the errors. But in a way that was kind of helpful because we were able to see the data. You know what I mean? But now we're not going to be able to see it. It's going to be straight from our SIS to the TSDS system. But to point out, like I mentioned, we have 2 districts in our region in this pilot year, but TA has invitation out to have more districts pilot this school year. So if you are interested in this presentation, we have TEA's form that you can fill out if you are interested. We're going to make out the invitation again to our PEIMS contacts. And currently on the slide, you can see the vendors that are pilot vendors. They're working on making their system ready for the conversion. And so more vendors will be coming on board, and cohort 2 vendors, as you can see them on the screen. So if you are with these vendors and you're interested in piloting this school year, or even being part of the test parallel next year, let us know. We will help you get set up with TA, so that way you can be part of that list that could get selected to participate. And so you want to start talking to your vendors, right? Having those conversations. It's not new to them. They should be aware of all of these because they themselves have to meet with TA, right, to get on board. But just have those conversations with them. Where are we at with meeting the TA's deadline? But there's a caveat, right? That's why the main focus right here is TA has found that throughout the years, particularly in the finance HR system, some school districts have to rely on in-house XML creation. They don't rely on the vendor to create these XML files. They're building them on their own. They're extracting the data, they're building it on their own, and then that's what we use to upload to the state. But remember, we're not going to use XML files anymore. It's straight from SIS to the TSDS database. So if there's any LEAs in our region that currently relies on in-house solutions to create those data files, TA needs to know. Because if you are going to continue to do it that way, they need to treat you as a vendor. Because since you're creating this information as a vendor, you have to be also ready to send the information over as API. So any in-house solutions, custom solutions where you have to manually update the XML files because your finance system doesn't quite create them according to data standards, and please let us know so that we can inform TA. So the key takeaways here is 3-year approach to getting to our go live year of 2024, 2025. And again, no longer sending XML files, no longer an area where we can change a code here because the due date is today and we know it's correct, but we just need to update the XML. So no longer that is available. That's going to be available. And again, if you are wanting to participate, let us know. We encourage you to participate. So in our region, I don't know if I mentioned it, but in our region, it's Sherryland ISD and San Benito ISD, who are both on versions of Skyward. They're our pilot districts for our region 1. So we have the QR code to participate. And of course, we as a region and all the regions, we are working with TA to provide that support to you. So going live here and way before that, we will be supporting you, training you on that transition. Any questions? All right. Yes, Ada. Yes. Good question.
Okay, HR uses a sender and the student information system is NISCO Plus. It's gonna go from both of those two softwares to the TSDS. Okay, there's no interchange, files or nothing like that. Okay.
So I hope everybody heard our questions. So in this case, there's a district who has two vendors. One is different than the student information system than it is for HR or finance. So you can continue to be that format even after this transition. All the vendors have to comply with API. So they have to, even if it's separate, you live in 2 different systems, they're not compatible, that's fine. But they have to comply with API transactions. And that is maybe you would want to pilot that, right? To make sure that how is that going to work for you all? How is the data that's lies in 2 different systems going to end up matching in the end? But that's part of these 2 years of testing. Mhm. Any other questions? Yes. Okay. What are the consequences if you don't comply? So that you really is the vendor, right? It's on the vendor, right? Because they're our gatekeepers of our data, right? They're the ones that have to be ready. And so have those conversations with them. On the screen, I listed the vendors who are already working with TEA. And so I see some vendors that are not on, well, actually, yeah, they're pretty much all there. Even like Focus is a new one in our region that's going to come out, I think. So, so we have to rely on the vendor to do that, to be in compliance. There is no, according to them, there is no plan B. It's straight API. So that's a very good question. What is required of the pilot? What is our responsibility? So you have to attend meetings where they're going to be giving you the plans, right? So so far in the meetings that I've attended with the pilot districts, every week it's a task. Access or get permissions to access this pilot portal, right? So it's like our basic TSDS, but in this pilot portal. The next week, and get permissions to your SIS vendors so that they have a connection between your SIS and they have a connection to the ODS system at TSDS. So every week there's like a task. But nonetheless, later on, they're going to get a lot more heavy, right, on the test-to-test end-to-end testing. So we do, we want to make sure that you are committed, because you do have to still do your own submissions the legacy way, but also doing these parallel testing. And of course, communicate with your staff to make sure you have that support. You're going to be participating as a pilot. Mhm. But the good thing is when you participate as a pilot, you get to get the experience. I mean, when I was with Adrian at PSJ, he voluntold he voluntold me to do the pilot from the PEIMS Edit Plus to TSDS. So I think it helps. It just helps to always see those screens, always see those issues, always see those errors, because when it's go live here, you've already been through that experience. So I think it does help. Mhm. Uh-huh. Yes, so the question was, in the parallel school year, is the expectation that you have to submit in both? Yes, because it's still not a go live here. So all those team submissions and TSDS collections still have to be submitted. But the expectation also is to also test it with this new way. Mhm. And as far as testing is, well, you compare reports. Do the reports look similar, right, from the actual way of doing it to this new way of doing it? It's comparing reports and comparing counts. Did my data make it? Are my reports, showing what they should be? All right. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, the question is, does the 3.9% increase from last fall to this fall include all of IDEA? The answer is yes. So IDEA headquarters out of Region 1. So we actually report all of their students as through Region 1. But in the report, we do have a breakdown between the IDEA schools that are physically in this region and the IDEA public schools that are physically outside of Region 1. So it does include it, but you can see the breakdown in the report.
Thank you all so much. The presentation has our contact information if you want to reach out to us. We appreciate your time. Have a great Friday.